Hello, I'm Andrew and welcome to ESL English Practice with Traveller's Guide. These lessons are designed to help you improve your score no matter which English proficiency test you're taking. Please press the thumbs up if you like the video and subscribe for more videos like this one. Feel free to leave a comment below. In this video, we are going to look at the IELTS speaking test and we're going to be focusing on part 3. The IELTS speaking test has 3 parts. Part 1 is basic questions on familiar topics. In part 2, you're given a topic to speak about for 1 to 2 minutes. And part 3 is more difficult questions which are based on your part 2 topics. We have talked about parts 1 and 2 in previous videos which you can watch, but today we are focusing on part 3. Part 3, like the rest of the test, is marked on these 4 criteria: grammar, fluency, pronunciation and vocabulary. Grammar is about verbs and sentence structure. Fluency means speaking at a natural pace, not too slowly but also not too quickly. Pronunciation means saying the words the way they are supposed to be said, and to get a good score in vocabulary, you need to show that you have learned a variety of words and that you can use them correctly. Just like in part 1, you have to listen carefully to the question, make sure you understand the question and try to give a full answer. But your part 3 questions are likely to be related to your part 2 topic, and they will include things like comparisons. For example, the difference between men and women, or old people and young people, or the difference between your country and another country. They will also include opinions, your opinions and other people's opinions. So you have to think about things from different points of view. Maybe there will be questions about the future. So how will things change in the future? What should people do? And there may be questions following up what you said in your part 2 topic, asking you for reasons to elaborate on your earlier thoughts. Now let's look at some example part 3 questions. Here's a part 2 topic. Describe 2 people from the same family that you know. This question is about people. There are many people questions, and 2 people from the same family. So the part 3 questions are likely to be about families, about relationships, and when it says 2 people from the same family, that could be brothers and sisters, it could be parents and children, it could be young people and their grandparents. So the part 3 questions could also be about generations. And here are the part 3 questions for that topic. People from different generations often live together. Do you think this is a problem? So this question is building on your part 2 topic. Different generations implies a comparison. And do you think? So it's asking for your opinion. You can give an example from your own experience. Talk about when you lived with people of a different generation. Would you like to live with your parents in the future? The second part 3 question says, do young adults in your country like to communicate with other people? So young adults, we're talking people maybe in their late teens or early 20s. And older people, that could refer to grandparents perhaps. And communicate could mean to talk or to write letters or send emails or communicate on social media. We also have the phrase in your country, which we see a lot. So here you need to give examples and evidence from your own situation about this. Do you like to communicate with older people? What about your friends or classmates? Maybe you can think about comments that older people have made. Can they use social media? Do older people in your country feel isolated or ignored? And why do young adults like to communicate with older people, or why not? And the third question says, do you think family relationships are important? Again, this is asking for your opinion here. Some people are very close to their family members, whereas others tend to be more independent. You could discuss both points of view, but make sure that your opinion is clearly stated as the question starts, do you think? Let's look at another part 2 topic. This one says, describe the most polite person you know. It's another people question, and there's a lot of these, but here your vocabulary is very important. If you don't know what the word polite means, then this topic will be very difficult for you. Sometimes the cue card has clues to what the vocabulary means, but in this case, there's no clue to what polite means. So if you don't know, it's going to be a problem. But let's look at the part 3 questions. The first one says, how do people in your country show politeness? So again we have the phrase in your country, and this crops up very often in parts 1 and 3. But how do they show politeness? So now you need to give examples of how people are polite in your country. Do they say please and thank you? Are they polite in their actions, like allowing old people to get off the bus first, or holding the door for someone? So there are different ways to show politeness. You need to think of some examples and possibly talk about yourself again. The second question, is there a difference between etiquette in cities and small towns? Etiquette is just another word for good behaviour or politeness. And again we have a comparison question. You're comparing the difference between people's behaviour in cities and in small towns, in urban areas and rural areas. You might not have much experience of the difference here, and perhaps there is no difference between the etiquette in cities and small towns. So this is a pretty hard question to answer. So if you're not sure, remember to use words like in my opinion, or I believe that, or I have heard. So you're not stating it as a fact, you're just talking about what you think is the case. And the third question, how do you deal with impolite behaviour? So what do you do if someone is behaving badly? Would you confront them and say something and ask them to change their behaviour? Or would you ignore them, maybe just focus on your phone and hope that this person will go away? Here we can use an experience from your own life as evidence. And the final part 2 topic we're going to look at says, describe an important place in your hometown. So this time we're describing a place. And an important place in your hometown could be a variety of things. Important to who? Important to you? Important to the majority of the citizens? Important to visitors? You can choose. But the part 3 questions are likely to follow on from this. Let's have a look at them. Here they are. First one, should public facilities be provided by governments or private companies? This one is opinions and comparisons. The second one, should libraries and museums be free for visitors? This is about your opinion. And finally, are sporting facilities more important than museums? Again, an opinions and comparisons question. When you're answering part 3 questions, remember to use examples, evidence, and experience. Okay, we're going to go over some example answers now. And we're going to answer these 3 questions that we looked at previously. Here's the first one. Should public facilities be provided by governments or private companies? If you want, you can pause the video now, prepare an answer, and see how it compares with mine. So here's my answer. I said, if facilities are run by the government, they will need to be paid for by government funds. This could lead to an increase in taxes. However, if those facilities are important for the health or education of citizens, it is appropriate for the government to pay for these. Private companies, on the other hand, can provide alternative leisure facilities in more specialist areas, although those facilities are likely to be more expensive for users. Overall, I'd say both scenarios are acceptable in society. Okay, so this is a yes or no question, and it's about your opinion. I've tried to think about both sides of the argument, and I've used examples and evidence. And finally, I've made my opinion clear. Although I haven't chosen one side or the other, I've said that both are acceptable. It's usually best to choose one opinion, but in this case, I've gone for both. And in real life, both situations do exist. This answer is 5 sentences long, so your answer doesn't have to be as long as this. I think this question could be an IELTS Part 2 writing in itself. You could talk about this for a long time. So in this case, you have to try and make your answer more succinct and get to the point quickly. Next question. Should libraries and museums be free for visitors? And for this one, I would say, libraries and museums are invaluable facilities for everybody. They are often housed in historical buildings and attract a large number of visiting tourists as well as local residents. If these facilities were free, that would encourage more people to go, which would increase the overall academic level of the population. However, these buildings are expensive to run, so maybe a small entrance fee or an optional donation is required. This is another yes/no opinion question. I've shown that I understand what libraries and museums are, and I've thought about the advantages and disadvantages of them being free. So in the end, I've suggested a small entrance fee, or you could ask people to make donations if they want. Perhaps my final opinion is not as clearly stated as it should be though. Let's move on to the next one. Are sporting facilities more important than museums? And for this one, my answer is whether sports facilities or museums are more important comes down to individual opinion. Some people would argue that sporting facilities are more important because they contribute to good health, while others say museums are more important because they teach people about our history. Personally, I agree with both of these viewpoints. I like to play sports, but also enjoy visiting museums, so I'd have to say both are equally valuable for society. Now, this is an opinion question and a comparison question. Perhaps you have a very strong view on this. Maybe you don't play sports at all. Maybe you think museums are boring. Personally, I often use both of these facilities, so I can't choose one or the other. Remember, with opinion questions, there is no right or wrong answer. As long as you use examples, experience and evidence to back up your opinion, you can stand by any viewpoint you choose. So to recap, when answering Part 3 questions, your answers should last for about 10 to 20 seconds. Your answer should consist of 2 or 3 sentences and use examples, evidence and experience to strengthen your answers. This is just a rough guide, and if your answers are longer or shorter, that might be okay. Sometimes though, the examiner will stop you if you're speaking for too long about one question, so try to avoid repeating or unnecessary hesitation. So that's the end of this video about IELTS Part 3 speaking. Thank you so much for watching the video. Remember to press the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your feedback on the video, and join me again next time for another ESL English practice lesson. Goodbye.